Good morning, members of the press, and good morning, St. Lucia. This morning we have Acting Prime Minister, Honorable Dr. Ernest Hilaire, to address us, and accompanied by Minister for Crime Prevention, Honorable Jeremiah Norbert. This morning we know that St. Lucia has seen an uptick in crime over the last week, and the government would like to reassure citizens of their safety and to also send a strong message to the criminals. And for that, we would like to introduce Honorable Dr. Ernest Hilaire.
Thank you very much, Monday, and good morning to the media. Of course, you know the Prime Minister is on a one-week vacation leave, and he's not in the island to address you, and it's my responsibility to do so. I think, first of all, the Prime Minister would want to say to all St. Lucians that we understand the sentiments that have been expressed over the last few days with the number of homicides that has happened over the last few days. And we want to be very clear, first of all, to the families and the friends of the persons who have been affected, that we want to extend our condolences and sympathies for all those who have been affected. We also want to say to St. Lucians who have been traumatized by the events of the last few days, and St. Lucians who have expressed concern to us as a government about the increasing brazenness of the actions of those criminals. And we want to assure them that we sympathize and we understand with their feelings, and it recommits us to the fact that we have to build a national alliance for us to fight this menace which is plaguing our society. We're very clear in our minds that the fight against crime is a national endeavor. It requires every single citizen to participate in it. So we say to you to feel assured that your government remains committed more than ever to fight against crime. We've said to the police, the principal agency that has to go out there in the trenches, in the fields, on the blocks, and throughout St. Lucia to fight crime, that they have the total and absolute support of the government of St. Lucia to do whatever is necessary within the law to curb these continuing incidents of crimes. We've said to the police, if you want more legislation, we are prepared to go to Parliament. If you need more policy guidelines, we are prepared to provide it. If you need more resources, we are prepared to provide it. Our record will show that on every instance the police has asked us for resources, we have provided it, and we will continue to do so. We have a record over the last 4 years of providing the police with all the resources that they've asked us, including increased manpower. We've increased, all the support that the police require. Legislation, we have brought into place tougher legislation, and we will bring into place tougher legislation once the police tells us that they require it. We will leave no stone unturned as a government in ensuring that the police is empowered to go out there and to do their job. No stone will be left unturned. That's our responsibility as a government. The police must never say that they wanted X, Y, or Z to make a difference in the fight against crime, and they did not get it. So now we expect that the police will demonstrate that level of commitment and dedication and increased activity. And the police has been doing a fantastic job so far, especially in the recovery of firearms and ammunition. They also, from the briefing that they've given us, shown us that they have made headway in solving some of the incidents that have taken place. But St. Lucians are asking for more, and we are asking for more. We want to see the police intensify their efforts to bring those criminals to justice and to address those who are even thinking about committing such crimes. And I'm not talking about the person who is hustling a living on the beach or in the street corners. We're not talking about that. We want a war against the merchants of death. There are people who are out there, shooting indiscriminately, taking the lives of individuals. It must stop. And the police, we are asking the police to do even more than what they've done before. And we know they've put in a lot of effort. But we require a very powerful statement from the police that they are going to take back the streets, they're going to take back the communities, and they can depend on us to support them. And I'm also calling on St. Lucians to give the police their support. I'm calling on civil society organizations to give the police their support. The police must not feel that it is a fight on their own or just with government giving them the resources. They must feel that the communities, they must feel that families, because let's not fool ourselves, the individuals who are involved in crime, the families know, the communities know. So if we want the police to make your community safer, you too have a responsibility to support the police. It cannot be that when the police undertakes an operation, the community and certain elements in the community will want to chastise the police for undertaking operations. It cannot be when there are roadblocks. People are annoyed because they have to wait in traffic 5-10 minutes. You want a safer St. Lucia? You have a right to have a safer St. Lucia. You have a right to demand a safer St. Lucia. But you equally must accept you have a role to play, and that role is to support the police. So just as a government, we're making a commitment to provide the police with what they need to fight crime, the communities and the families must support the police and give them the strength and the encouragement to fight crime. This has to be a holistic approach, and everyone has to be part of it. I must also say that there are individuals out there that will post fake stories, fake pictures, make all different claims. Again, I ask the public to stay focused. The police will provide official information on who is arrested, who is charged, who they're looking for, and do not take it from persons who are bent on exploiting the situation that we are in now and we have been in for the last few years for other purposes. And I want to be very clear on that. Because there are people that are looking to exploit this, but that's not our focus today. Our focus is to say, one, to St. Lucians, to be assured that we are doing everything we can as a government to support the police so they can fight crime. We want, two, to say to the police, you have our support. Do what has to be done. Thirdly, to say to the police also, you will get the resources you need once you ask for it. And fourthly, to say to communities and families, you too need to support the police and help us fight this scourge of crime that we're facing right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hilaire. And as Dr. Hilaire rightfully said, this is not something that started yesterday. And as Prime Minister would say, not on the 21st, on the 26th of July, 2021. As you would know, that CARICOM has spoken about crime and declared it a public health issue. So this is not something synonymous to St. Lucia, but the whole region is waging a war against gun-related violence. And on top of all the resources that this government has provided to the police force, we've also provided social interventions. And we have now a designated crime prevention minister in the name of Jeremiah Norbert. So we'll listen to Honorable Jeremiah Norbert, a former police officer, speaking to us about some of these interventions and also his own take on the situation that we face.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to start off by expressing my deepest sympathies to the families of those individuals who have lost their lives because of crime and especially violent crime. And as Mondi would have said earlier, over the past week, we've seen St. Lucians expressing a bit of concern about what has happened. I mean, we've had about 6 homicides in a matter of a few days. And this is totally unacceptable for a small country like ours. And we have given the police resources. We continue to speak about the resources that we've given the police. But I think the time is right where we have to call, if the public is demanding more, we have to call on the police to do more. As a government, our job is to provide policy, guidance for the police. It is not my job to put on a bulletproof vest and take an M16 and go into the ghetto to arrest an individual. we have an agency tasked with that responsibility. And we've had conversations with the police about what our expectations are as a government. And when we have these conversations, they make requests for resources. And I think we've played our part. And we've done a fair enough job in terms of playing our part to provide them with these resources. And we've been given a guarantee that the police will be intensifying their efforts. And we live in a society, very small society, and we have a few individuals who have become very brazen, who have show very little concern about life, and they go about and they believe that this country belongs to them. And I want to say to them that this government will stop at absolutely nothing to ensure that this thing comes to a halt. Absolutely nothing. And these individuals who engage in criminal activities, they have brothers, they have sisters, they have mothers, aunties and uncles, children, who are very aware, very, very aware, and I speak from the standpoint of a former policeman who dealt with intelligence, who are aware of the activities, and some of them actually benefit from the proceeds of crime. And for that reason, they believe it is okay to harbor and to safeguard these individuals when they come into their premises. I want to tell them that we've asked the police not to just engage in any sort of shallow investigation, but to dig down deep, and anybody who is found to be guilty or who is found to be involved in aiding and abetting, anybody who is found to be involved in harboring, they too will be brought to face the full brunt of the law. It cannot be acceptable in this country that we as a public, we as a country, we're asking for a safer country, and some of us deliberately, knowing, encourage some individuals because they bring home $2 or $3. This government has done too much to provide alternatives to crime. We have so many social programs. Those young men who tell you that there are no jobs, we live in a society right now, and Dr. Hilaire can tell you, where certain institutions, certain investors have to import labor because they cannot find individuals to work in this country. So it is not a situation about we not having jobs. We've gone and we've implemented TVET Institute. So those men, young men and young women who may not be inclined to go down the road of academia, they have alternatives. They can go down and deal with the technical aspects of things. This government continues to invest to provide opportunities for young people. So that idea of using the excuse of society has failed us to go down the road of crime and criminality cannot be accepted, and we will not accept it. We have done and we continue to do and put social interventions in place to ensure that individuals have an alternative to crime. And I want to tell those individuals who harbor, not just those, because if we create a society where your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, when you come home with a firearm and they see you put it up in the ceiling, they report it, individuals now have to find an alternative. But because it's been encouraged by some individuals, and as I said, because they may be beneficiaries of the proceeds of crime, we have a situation where we allow this thing to continue to permeate, and we cannot allow it to continue. And that is why we are going to deal with all the actors, not just the shooters, but the harborers, and all the actors going to be dealt with equally. I want to encourage, whilst I'm on the floor, I want to encourage St. Lucians that when the police decides to, you are going to see an intensified effort on the part of the police. But we want to encourage you to work with the police. Do not stand in the way of the police when they come to do their work. I know that the police have a responsibility to behave in a way that is professional, and we want to encourage them to do that, to conduct themselves in a way. We're not asking them to go and ransack individuals, but at the same time, they have a job to do, and if we want to see a safer society, all of us have a role to play. Do not become barricades to law and order in this country. Allow the police to come in and do their work. And when they come in, as we've said, the police has the full support of the government. Once they operate within the parameters of the law, they have the full support of this government to go out there and do what needs to be done to restore this country. And it is okay to feel concerned. But rest assured that this government will do everything, every single thing within its power to ensure that this country is not, we cannot have a few men and women who think that they can just hold this country to ransom. That is not acceptable, and we are not going to accept it as a government, and we are going to do everything that we can to ensure that this country is restored to a place that is safe, that is secure, that is peaceful, one where everybody feels okay going to the supermarket, okay going to the hospital. And we have to understand the implications of these criminal activities, you know. It is not just instilling fear in individuals. It puts pressure on our healthcare system. When you go to the hospital, sometimes you go there for something that may not seem, maybe a bellyache, and usually it probably would have taken you 20 minutes to an hour to have seen a doctor, but because of the number of serious crimes coming, serious incidents coming to the hospital, you have to wait, you have to be delayed. So it has implications for every one of us. And as a government, we understand that it is a holistic approach that has to be taken to deal with this crime situation. My ministry, from the Ministry of Crime Prevention, we've had Dr. Montel Felix. I know that he's already started doing a survey, an island-wide survey, with the hope of collecting some sort of empirical evidence so that we can make some recommendations to deal with the scourge of crime in this country. But whilst we're dealing with these softer components, we have to ensure that the police who is entrusted with the primary responsibility of maintaining law and order have what they need to do their job, and we have promised them the support. We've given them the resources, not just the moral support, but we've also given them the resources to go out there and do their work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Norbert. And just coming back here, so let's do this orderly. Show of hands. Anyone? Question? Yes.
Mr. Minister, the one who's the Prime Minister today. When we're saying stuff like that the police should be able to go out and do what they have to do to push back against crime, I'm hearing echoes of what was being said in Trinidad and Jamaica while they were going through the peak of their crises late last year, earlier this year, which led to states of emergency and human rights abuses. The police shootings in Jamaica are super high this year. Are we on the verge of a state of emergency? Are we at risk of getting so aggressive? Are we willing to pay a price in human rights for the fight against crime?
Well, first of all, the police who have the operational knowledge and expertise must devise the strategies and approaches. I think what St. Lucians want to see is greater effort. And sometimes it doesn't mean the police probably, and there's no suggestion that they're not doing their work. St. Lucians want to be able to leave their homes, go about freely, and not have to worry about any individual who may have some, misguided belief that he can act, with wanton recklessness. St. Lucians want to feel and to see that the action is being taken and to feel it. Now, the police has to devise the strategies and the operations to get it done and give people that comfort. I don't know, it's not my expertise to tell them how to do it. What I can tell them is whatever they ask us to do as the government, whether it's legislation, whether it's policy, whether it's logistics, we will provide it to them. And they know what they are guided by, and they need to do what has to be done. If the police ask us for stronger legislation, we will do so. We did pass the crime bill last year after we had an upsurge in crime, which gives the police additional powers. If they want more powers, we will give it to them. And in my view, if anybody believes those additional powers, if they are requested by the police, crosses the line on their human rights, they go to court and deal with it. That's my position on that. If the police ask us for special powers to do X, Y, and Z, and anyone believes those powers would cross the line, and they go to court, the court decides on those things. But when the police ask us for something, I want to be there for the police, and I want to be able to give it to them. Let me tell you, you see the violence we're facing now, this is crossing a line in my view. And like I said in my earlier statement, this is not about, and I'm not asking police to go behind guys who are hustling a living, who, on the street trying to get a vibe together. I'm not asking about that. I have a problem with the violence. I have a problem with it, a real problem with it. I don't want to be going around my constituency, around St. Lucia. I don't want my children, I don't want my relatives to be going around and feeling unsafe because there will be violence in the place.
Perhaps that's something we could address, is the way the culture of crime has changed, especially in the post-COVID era, where crime used to be about money, and now...
Yes, precisely. I mean...
What are the factors involved in these kinds of crimes, these kinds of
well,
non-profit crimes that we're seeing?
I let the police answer those, characteristics and those things. All I'm saying to you, you see this violence that's existing, all of us, to give the police the support, for them to go out there, feel empowered and bold in dealing with it.
Dr. Hilaire,
is it working? Is what we have been doing working? Given that
so they need to try new things.
Dr. Hilaire, in all of this said and done, a lot of people believe the government do not have the political will to deal with the situation. That's the road on the streets with the
Okay, well,
opposition.
stop there. So let's analyze that. Political will to do what?
The violence has been...
What about the violence they want us to do?
I think it's better. I think it's better put in perspective from the standpoint that you have calls that suggest that the government is not tough on crime. Understanding, of course, that you both have outlined your willingness and your support for the police. And of course, no less, the opposition has suggested more than once that the current administration is soft on crime.
Okay, stop there. Again, tell me what that means. You see, platitudes is one thing. It is. The same opposition, just after they won, said, in fact, they won the last election, they said Kenny could not bring down crime, but they can. It did not happen. In fact, the murder rate exponentially increased under them. So that failed. So we need to get practical. So, and I have no problems. If you have suggestions, give it to us. So when they say we soften crime and we don't have political will, tell me to do what? We are saying again. We have the will. We are determined to do something about it. But tell us, the police must tell us, because we're not the police officers. Tell us what you all want us to do. If anybody can say to me, the police ask you to pass a law which required X, Y, and Z, and you said you didn't want to do it, you were afraid, then you can say we don't have the political will. If you say to us, the police said we wanted 15 vehicles, we wanted guns, ammunition, bulletproof vests, we didn't give it to you, you can say we're not giving the support. So tell me, in a very definitive way, no will to do what, and lack of support in what regard. And when you can say that to me, I can say to you, there's probably some truth in it. It's something we can reflect on, because we need to get suggestions from you too. You're on the streets, so you ain't. But when political statements have been made that the government doesn't have the will, tell me what I don't have the will to do. Somebody tell me what I don't have the will to do, and then we can move forward. You follow me?
In all of that said and done, sir, what report has the police give you so far of the amount of homicides that's been happening within this week? Mm-hmm. We also understand that a number of firearms was also discovered. Yeah. I'm thinking, what can you tell us?
Well, I'll leave it to the police to give you the direct statistics and the report on what's happening. That's their responsibility. But yes, they did brief us on the number of firearms they recovered over the last few days through a number of operations they took throughout this country. A significant number of firearms and some submachine guns and whatnot that they discovered. And a number of persons that they have as persons of interest. But I leave it to the police to deal with policing matters. But I can tell you the police has had a lot of successes over the last few days.
But in light of that, we're still seeing homicides going up and concerns. Yeah. I suppose that's what the people are seeing now.
And I'm saying it too.
And I suppose that's why we are here today having this press conference, because the government seems to responding to what's happening on the ground.
But how do you want the government to respond on the ground? Because you say exactly what you said there. That's the same thing I tell the police. You need to show us what are the actions that you're undertaking, what are the operations, what you're doing to make a difference. And if what you're doing is not working, then do something different. Now, I am not the trained police officer. I'm an ordinary citizen like all of you. I can give my views as to what should be done. But somebody has to go and execute it. The police has to come up with the strategies. Exactly what you're saying. We want to see things happening and they are meaningful and impactful. Now, it doesn't mean it will solve the crime in one day, because that's just not been realistic. Look at Barbados, look at Trinidad, look at Jamaica. You know, it's not St. Lucia alone. The point is, we want something done that works. And we want to see something meaningfully done by the police, and we are there to support them. We are there to give them the resources. We are there to give them the legislative support. We are there to give them the policy support to make it happen. But the experts that are employed to do it have to do it. That's our position.
Anybody besides Jason? And we'll come back to you. We will.
Feel free,
Make me feel like Jillian.
Yes, thank you.
Good morning, Minister. Minister Norbert would have spoken to those aiding and abetting crime and encouraging the public to share with the police what they know. However, as somebody who covers a lot of the crime, there is a lot of fear the public has about reporting crime, the retaliation that could happen on them. What's going on with witness protection and ensuring that those who actually report crime, even if it's through the app or the hotline, to just let them know that they are actually safe? What's happening in that regard?
Yeah, Minister Norbert will probably speak a little.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think it's a genuine concern on the part of St. Lucians as to what level of security and assurance that I have if I were to work with the police and furnish them with information that may lead to somebody who is involved in a crime or criminal activity being caught. And one of the reasons people express that level of concern is because we've seen in the past persons who have been state witness, individuals who have been just witnesses, and for some reason or the other, these individuals, certain things have happened to them, unfortunately, and people would love to know that they have a certain level of protection. We have a witness protection bill, and I know that we've done a lot of work in terms of reviewing it and to ensure that we can actually pass it in Parliament, but also the police have within their vote provisions to ensure that they make certain allocational allowances for individuals who become state witnesses. I cannot go into the full, I cannot give you full disclosure as to how it works, but I can tell you as we speak, we have individuals who are witnesses who have everything has already been put in place for them, and they don't even reside in this country. So we do take witness protection serious. However, you also have situations whereby witnesses may not want to, because they may have noticed or observed a crime being committed, and because of how established they are in this country, it may become a burden for them to be able to leave, and they willingly, notwithstanding the police may afford them the opportunity to get out and provide them with the witness protection, because St. Lucia is small, and there's no way that we can give you a policeman to do close protection security for you every minute of the day. We do not have that level of resources. So sometimes it's easier for us as a state to be able to take you and send you somewhere else where we can provide you with that level of protection. However, you have individuals who voluntarily decide that they do not want to leave this country for one reason or the other. They have to leave their families behind. And this is some of the challenges that we have to grapple with, where individuals, sometimes they want to provide you with information, but they fear that. But I want to let these individuals know, and even the police at times, some people tell you they don't trust the police, because if I were to give you information and I'm supposed to be anonymous, quote unquote, how comes tomorrow somebody else knows that I gave the information? That's why we encourage the police to ensure, and I know that the commissioner is doing all that he can to ensure that you have minimal individuals working in that particular department. So it becomes a little easier to trace if somebody were to give out information. If this place is too crowded, anybody can say what happened here today. But if it's only two of us here, and the information goes out, then I know it can easily be traced to you. So they're making strides in that regard. I can tell you that we have a system in place where we provide witness protection for individuals who may require it. However, we do have situations whereby voluntarily people may have already been established here. They have their children, they have their business here, and they find it difficult to be able to leave the state. But we do have an apparatus here that allows us to provide protection for individuals, and the police do have the allocation to be able to provide them with that.
If we have no more questions, we'll take, one, your last one, and then Jason's last one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mondi. Okay, so can you just speak on the issue of the people of the public actually making complaints of threats to the police, saying that, like someone threatened someone's life and they're not taking it seriously to the point where the person actually dies?
Okay, so and I'm guessing that question is coming from a Facebook, some Facebook post you would have seen, yeah. And again, you see, when they tell you, and Dr. Hilaire captured it well, when you ask about the political will, when the police has a responsibility, and that's why this morning I felt it was important that we call them out to be able to play their part in this whole crime fighting battle. They have a responsibility. When you sign up to become a policeman, you take an oath to protect and serve. You take an oath to ensure that you do everything in your power to ensure that St. Lucia remains safe and peaceful. If an individual makes a report about his or her life being threatened, especially given the environment that we're living in. Now, I also want to, whilst I'm going down that road, I also want to make it abundantly clear that sometimes when what we see or what we see on social media may not necessarily be what actually happens, because everybody paints the picture to suit them. Now, I'm not saying that what we saw is the truth or it's not. But I'm just saying sometimes when things happen, people come and they tell you, okay, well, I went there and nothing was done. But that can be verified. Whether or not you went into the police station and you made a report and the police did not take you serious, that can be verified. If that did not happen, if you went and you made a report and the police did absolutely nothing, the commissioner has a responsibility. There's a disciplinary unit within the police force, and that should never happen, whereby somebody makes a report and they should just be taken for granted, especially now when people make reports of threats to kill. I mean, given the current environment current climate that we live in, that is something that must be taken with the utmost seriousness. So I would never encourage or say that when somebody goes there that the police should just tell them, well, from what you're speaking about, that...
Well, I was referring to a bunch of situations. I think we can recall a situation earlier in the year where the family in Dennery, where the brother actually chopped his own brother. And I mean, there was brain matter on the ground in front of the family. The daughter witnessed her own uncle killing her father. And she said she and her mother went weeks upon weeks making reports to the police that, hey, her uncle is making threats.
So when these things happen, the commissioner has a responsibility to ensure that there's an investigation, and whoever is culpable or whoever is caught culpable has to be dealt with. It is considered to be neglect of duty. There is legislation to deal with that. The police has the legislation and they have the authority to deal with that. So that has to be dealt with on the ends of the police, because they have, and the commissioner has a disciplinary unit or complaints unit whereby individuals can go make reports. There are investigators working there who deal with these matters, and if the police is found culpable, there are certain actions that can be taken, so much so that the police officers can be fired. And we've had several instances here where police officers have been fired because of neglect of duty.
Thank you.
Right. No doubt the approach by the government and the police has to be proactive and reactive. I think what we're talking about now is the reactive part of it. I think both individuals, you have addressed part of the proactive part in terms of giving the police resources. Can you speak to such areas as the K9 unit, which has had its rounds in the public sphere, as well as scanners and other proactive measures that are actually being taken into consideration right now?
Yeah, so we do realize that part of the problem that we have in this country is the heavy influx of firearms onto our shores. And Prime Minister has said it over and over that we in St. Lucia, we don't have what we call ghost houses or ghost shops where firearms are being built. Most of these firearms are being imported, and they come through either unconventional ports and sometimes through what we know the traditional ports of entry that we have here. And I know Prime Minister is doing everything within his power. I know that we had conversation with the Taiwanese. We got some scanners, albeit may not be able to do the level of scanning that we require now, given the heavy volume of firearms we see getting into this country. And that is why I said as well that those individuals involved in facilitating these acts, because when I spoke about family members, friends, and other individuals who harbor, that is just one part of the problem. We also have, part of this problem is institutionalized, whereby you have persons who have been in the system who play an active part in ensuring that these firearms get into this country. And again, proceeds of crimes. And that's why we call on FIA and all the other agencies. It has to be a holistic approach where everybody plays their part. When you are interested, and my thing is, my position has always been that you cannot be in the church and the chapel at the same time. You have to choose one. So either you're a customs officer or you're a trafficker of guns and firearms, of guns and ammunition. You have to choose one. You cannot be in both. And when we find you applying to be one and purporting to be the next, you have to be dealt with accordingly. And you have to send a strong message to those individuals involved in these things. Because we've seen, and I think somebody asked earlier, so many firearms being the successes of the police and not enough is being done in terms of the political will. I want to tell you, we agree and we accept that currently we have a problem. We have a lot of firearms in St. Lucia. And just by the successes of the police, it will send us a message that we have a lot of illegal firearms in St. Lucia. A lot. And whilst we're working on trying to get these firearms out of the street, we have to ensure that we take on the necessary measures to tighten our security at the ports, to try to restrict as many firearms. And those we cannot restrict. We need to try to intercept at the ports of entry and deal with. And this thing is, what we see now is not something that's just local, you know. You have agents who sends the firearms from overseas. You have agents all over, and it's a network and it's organized. And when you deal with organized crime and organized trafficking of arms, of firearms and ammunition, it is something where you may require more than just what you can do, but you may require international, regional agencies to assist. So with CARICOM impacts, with JRCC and the other organizations and our sister countries, we work to see how can we reduce the influx of firearms coming into this country. So it is a lot. It is a lot, but rest assured that we are doing everything that we can, from trying to get the ports secured, trying to see the personnel working at the ports, if we can ensure that there is polygraphing happening and I know Prime Minister has made it very clear, everybody who is coming in now as recruits, before that was not even a requirement. You could have just come in and the vetting that used to happen used to be just police officers go in and do background check. Right now, we've gone beyond that, and we actually introduced polygraphing of individuals coming into these organizations, especially where you're going to be dealing with sensitive information. So we are making steps, we are making attempts. I think what we don't do is speak a lot about what are some of these things that we're doing. But what you get happening is every time a crime or you have any murder in this country, we are reminded, for political reasons or otherwise, about what we're doing. And I think maybe upon reflection and having this thing, we probably have to do better in terms of our PR as to the steps that we are taking to ensure that we're making St. Lucia safe and secure.
Thank you, Chairman. And one final question from Mr.
For each minister. Why? There's a lot to be gained from talking tough on crime and acting as if you're getting involved in the police business. There's a lot to be gained politically from it, and yet this government is refraining from putting their fingers in the police business. Why would you not take the political point? Why is it, what is the danger in being in the PM and the security cabinet being seen putting their hands in the police business, talking tough on crime, getting micromanagerial about it? Why is it that we're avoiding that?
Because it's the wrong thing to do. I mean, you really cannot decide now you're going to get involved in police operations and tell the police where they should have roadblocks, who they should, which communities they should go hard and whatnot. It's really not our role. It's not our expertise. It's not our training. Each one of us can have our own opinion as to what the police should do. And we probably do have our own opinion. But they are the trained persons. They are the persons who sign up to do the job. Our role is to provide them with the necessary tools of trade so they can get it done. That's our role. And also, as the custodian of the government of St. Lucia, we have to be able to say to them that the people are asking for more, and therefore you should do more, but not necessarily to get involved in what has to be done. In private, we may share our thoughts, our ideas with them, but it's not our role. It is their responsibility. And like Minister Norbert said and myself earlier, we are calling on the police to act in a manner that will restore the confidence of the public in the task ahead. We want to say it. And that's why I'm also calling on the public to support the police, because you cannot ask the police to do more and to be more proactive and intensify the efforts. And then, you're not giving the police the support. If I were an officer, I'd be very demotivated and demoralized. Exactly. What more can the police do?
Yeah, what more can they
Well,
do?
as the
They
police
can,
high command, that when you meet them, ask them what more do they plan to do, because we ask them the same questions over the next few months leading to Christmas. What are you going to do? Those guys that believe they can just drive down the road, and if they see somebody from another gang that they have a beef with, they can just open fire on them in public. Tell me what you're going to do about those individuals out there that you have reason to believe they're involved in gang and criminal activity. What are you proactively going to do about them? And tell us, the political directorate, what strength you need to get it done. That's how they have to approach it. They have to say, you see those guys, we have intel. If they have intel about you, Jason, the kind of activities you're involved in and what you're likely to do, and if they want to deal with you. We're telling them deal with you, and tell us what they need to deal with you. And that's our responsibility. I don't want to get involved in the dealing with you, whether you're brought in for questioning. When I say deal with you, that's what I mean, and whatnot. But tell us what they need to get it done. So if there's a law that prohibits them from bringing you in and questioning you over a week, then tell us what they need. That's what we want them to do. We want them to come up with that campaign and to ask us what they need to get it done. Likewise, we call on the public to support them. The public wants to be safe, but the public must also understand they have to support the police.
what makes us so attractive to those guys?
Huh?
What makes us so attractive? Why is it the islands to the north of us and the island, is it because we're the biggest economy that we're attracting the drugs and the guns? Are we still the biggest transshipment of goods drugs to Gatwick? Are we still the biggest transshipment of drugs to Gatwick? What is it that makes us so attractive to these people?
Thank you, guys.
14 times British, 40 times French. It's that central location.
Thank you.